Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Torelli. I'm the chairman of the Orange County Industrial Development Agency. Today is Monday, May 16th, 2022 at 5:31 p.m. We're going to open up our governance committee meeting. With that, Bill, you just want to call the roll of who's present?
Sure. Michael Torelli.
Present.
Dean Tamburri.
Present.
James Rinaldi.
Present.
Vincent Odock.
Present.
Mr. Odock is appearing via Zoom during, while we're still allowed to do it during the state of emergency. Not present is board member Susan Walski.
Okay.
And
anybody else present?
just Dennis Brady from 88 Consulting is on for running our AV. That's
Great.
Right now.
Perfect. We'll jump right into it. Since we last met, we've had a little bit of stuff going on, and Bill has been keeping us informed with some things we'll be talking about today. We did receive, unfortunately, 2 resignations from board members, so we are down to 5 board members. Unfortunately, both Bo and Noel had to resign. So we'll wait for the Orange County Legislature to go ahead and go through their whole appointment process and different stuff. So we'll be waiting for that to happen. Prior to today's meeting, there was supposed to be an Economic Development and Education Subcommittee meeting of the Orange County Legislature that Bill presents to, but that was postponed due to weather and conflicts, I believe. So that's be on Friday.
This Friday, 4 p.m.
So Bill will be representing us there like he normally does and giving them an update. So with that, we'll jump right in. And like I said, this is a governance committee meeting, so we have a couple agenda items, and we're looking to discuss and potentially maybe bring some stuff to the board meeting, which is scheduled for this Wednesday at 5:30 in this room.
You got it, exactly.
I'll turn it over to Bill, and we'll start our discussion on what we want to talk about.
All right, I do want to thank you. I do want to, since you're talking dates, remind everyone that we did send out with this month's board meeting packet. One of the first items in the packet is our calendar, proposed calendar for 2022, the remainder of 22 and 2023.
Very colorful.
It was colorful. You know, you see some of my my charts and everything to keep all the information straight. It just worked in my brain. So the last thing I did was color coding, so we can kind of see the different balance of meetings we have here. So it's a lot. It's way out there, but I'm hoping to get ahead of some of your calendars. I did take into account everything that you know, everyone has their own personal and professional scheduling challenges. Tried to include all of that. Dr. Odock, it's not, Mondays are not great for him, so I appreciate him in making it remotely tonight. He has some challenges conflicts leading up to this meeting. We only have one other Monday on the calendar, really, so I think otherwise we're in pretty good condition. So I did want to say that. One of the other things we've been talking about is we have, of course, in an effort to re-procure everything this agency, procures, purchases, services, and otherwise. We want to make sure that everyone knows that it was done in an open process and looking at multiple responses and such. We have RFPs that are open for local labor construction monitoring, for our bond council, possible bond council, and now we just got a number of responses to our shovel-ready RFQ that was put out. Governance is the means, the mode through which we've decided we're going to review these. So you will notice on the calendar that I'm referring to that we have a few more governance committee meetings scheduled than normal. We're going to move it to quarterly, which seems to be the right frequency. We have a few that kind of jammed together over the next few months. It's mostly to help us deal with these RFPs. So it's important, you know, we're obviously not asking these professionals to put these proposals together and just have them waiting. We're just trying to get through all of this. Obviously, a lot of business to do. So with that said, today we're going to focus on the local labor monitoring RFP responses that we got. Of course, that is part of our incentives that we provide. There is a local labor policy that's been in place since, I think, originally 2016. That is all in construction labor. It requires that 85% of construction labor, qualified labor, is filled by workers that live in the 7-county area, between basically here in Westchester. That's kind of the mid to lower Hudson. That is something, that policy is something I think we need to revisit. The board has not dealt with it itself. There are some proposed changes that I probably would propose right now, just so you know. It used to be less stringent, our policy, where you have to meet 85% local labor, but that would be on the entire the project itself. the IDA's former board made it a little more stringent, where it then became 85% local labor on every single contract and subcontract in the job. It just, I can tell you just from hearing from many projects, it's much more onerous, more challenging. We've seen the Montgomery IDA, the town IDA, which actually really copied our local labor policy. They, in this past year, I do know that's something they've dealt with. They changed the language a little bit so that it's just a little less challenging, but still obviously the spirit of trying to keep everything local. So that's just a quick update. Again, something I think the board, as in a regular board meeting, should take a look at. So we'll bring that up, again. But at this point, we did have, in response to our RFP that went out earlier in 2021, we had 5 responses to the local labor monitoring. First was Loki Brill, which has been our labor monitoring vendor for a number of years. And then we had 4 other consultants, 3 of which are engineers. It became apparent that this is the type of work that local engineering firms, when they really understood what was required here, that they felt was right in line with all the construction administration work they do. When they're an architect or an engineering firm on the job, they're there. They're making regular visits or making sure things are in compliance. Obviously, things are up to meeting the plans that were put forth. So we got 3 responses from engineers: Delaware Engineering, Land Associates here in Goshen, and Fellenser Engineering, to perform these services. And they really kind of delineated how this is right up there, again, for lack of a better expression, right up their alley, their normal course of business. The pricing that they gave us is pretty much in line with what they typically charge for these types of construction admin services. And then the last response we got was from a company, Iser Consulting. The principal is Sue Sullivan, who worked for years at St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital. A lot of folks know her from there. She has her own consulting firm, and she does a lot of construction management, a lot of, let's say, for Empire State Development grants, does a lot of the work on the back end, the administrative work. So this was something that she felt was in line with her firm as well. With that said, as we did with the CPA firm when we went through that process, I tried to put together a comparative analysis document that, comparing apples to apples basically here. It was a little, I think in the end, easier with the CPAs. The differences in the proposals, the way they were put together, as I laid it out, you can kind of see who was offering what. And to me, it ended up being at least a clear choice between at least a couple. Here, this is a little more fuzzy, I think, because again, I haven't managed this before, except for the last several months here working with Loki Brill. But, I can't say for certain exactly who can do a better job with being on site, checking driver licenses, this, that, and the other. But one of the ways we try to compare at least the cost here, well, we laid out exactly what everyone offered, any potential conflicts, if they have an Orange County presence, what's their relevant experience. But then in an attempt to try and compare apples to apples cost-wise, all the respondents seemed to give pricing per hour, on a per hour basis, for whatever personnel would be conducted. And of course, they have their principals in there, senior engineers or architects, construction admin or code enforcement. Those are the types of, even for engineers, the type of personnel that really go on site and do the kind of work we're talking about. Office manager, administrative assistant. So we try to put an estimate together where we figured that in a given month or on a certain project, there would be 1 hour of time from a principal of any of these agents, any of these companies, 1.5 hours of an associate engineer or architect, 10 hours of more of the construction admin or code enforcement type work, and then 2 hours of administrative assistant work, because there's always compiling these reports, sending them. I've seen a few versions. Fellenser Engineering did do work for OCIDA in the past, so I saw some of those reports. I've seen what Loki Brill has done for the last couple of years, of course. So we try to put that together. There's even a travel comparison. And if you look at that way, then I'm just going to go straight across in alphabetical order. Using that example kind of algorithm for potential pricing, Delaware Engineering on a project comes in at just over $2,200 for a project. Fellenser at $1,750. Iser Consulting at $2,800. That is the highest. Land at about $1,920. So just over $1,900. and low-key grill, $1,850. So still very close. Eyes are being higher based upon just the rates of the individuals that do most of the work. Delaware then next, low-key grill, land, low-key grill, and then Sellens are coming at the lowest bid at $1,756. But this isn't an easy analysis because I don't think, that's just one way we came up with an example pricing, and the figures are close enough where I don't know that this is the service we want to buy on price. I know going local is something else is important to us, which really everyone is local except low-key grill. They're based in Rochester, though they're traveling here for project visits, every week. But that was the information. We did share the full proposals with everyone, and how you want to dive in and place it. It's up to you.
Well, I'd like to ask for you just to go maybe like a half a step further. Okay, Bill? We're all on the same page. Can you give us for instance, like, what are the fees that are associated with it? Who pays them? How does it flow through? Does it flow through us? Does that flow to them? Does it go on escrow? And then on a typical assumption, what is the IDA assuming that an entity like this is going to do? Like on a typical, I'll say, 6-month construction project. Are we expecting them to go there every single day a month? Once during the project, maybe once at the end? Like, what are our expectations so we can kind of bolt on the cost? Because one of the concerns that I have is that not everybody in the IDA world does something like this.
Right.
So that's more on the policy side. So I do worry that we would have a higher cost than others, that are comparable. We wouldn't want to lose a project just because of this. But with that said, our policy, we'll discuss that maybe at a different governance or something. But can you give us for instance, like, what's our fee structure? What's that type of stuff that, and I understand this could be estimates. This is like ballpark.
Sure. So you see it with some of our billing that comes in. That's where we're transferring money sometimes to cover it. Low-key grill charges us per hour per visit. Basically, is they're per visit when they're going on site. And I would say the frequency, I think, is sometimes influenced by how many projects they have in the area. So I think they're coming weekly and making visits because they are here. They're actually making the trip from Rochester too, and they're doing for some other ideas, they're doing similar work. So I think we're typically seeing weekly, but do some jobs require that? How much is that changing? I don't think that frequency is actually what's required.
Yeah, because I mean, like a project like Limoncello, who had just a certain amount of contractors and subcontractors, comparing that to like a Legoland, it's like night and day. And one's a multi-million-dollar project, one of them $100,000.
And those larger projects, like Legoland, had a lot of turnover, a lot of different trades, a lot of subcontracts. They had a lot of the same workers at Limoncello. I've been there myself a couple of times.
Yeah, so it's probably all not the same, right? It's probably, you would need to do something weekly there. It's probably the same 7 to 10 people that are working there.
That's what I'm saying. But low-key grill may tend to visit them every week because they're in the area. It doesn't mean that project requires that.
Yeah.
The other thing back to, cost, first I answer your question on that. First of all, as far as the project visits, the applicant bears all the costs for that. Was under a former policy where actually we paid for that. Frankly, Legoland New York, they were just fortunate. We paid for that actually, but ever since that project, for the most part, that cost is borne by the applicant. However, Low-Key Grill does charge us a monthly reporting fee on top of those visit charges that we pay for, and that's roughly been about $1,300 a month for what we're paying. Now, I will say, however, in their proposal that they provided in 2021, it's a different structure, and it's something that they're saying that they've been aware of, that they've got feedback from other IDAs. Now they have that all those reporting costs are borne by the applicant. It's on a project by project basis. The reporting goes in each.
So to answer the same question, maybe a little different, maybe a little more detail. On the budget side of things, these companies are putting money in an escrow account, or they're giving it to us and we put it and we like hold it in reserve, and then we dish it out to we pay it out.
We do.
So it's literally.
We hold it in escrow. We get it from the project.
So do we count it as revenue and then we count it as an expense?
It is in the budget on in and out, kind of like what we do with their application fee. That we share half of that with our council. So we'll show the ins and outs on that. Exactly, if we.
I mean, I don't know what's the best practice. I mean, to do, but
as far as the balance,
kind of like,
I don't know how we account.
It's kind of like almost like a pass-through.
It is.
It's totally like a pass-through. Yeah. So it's like we're almost overstating our revenue by taking in all this money, but then also overstating our expenses because it's just going right back out to pay for it.
So that's the part
I'm at the other end of that.
Yeah.
I was on the other end.
Okay.
I was paying for these people to come, and it leaves a taste, because if you're running a project, and my stuff wasn't multi-million, you're not there, you can't run a project no matter who says what. It's not running all the time. You're gonna have weather-related, winter-related, labor-related, whatever. Every week is not gonna be X amount. If you take 100%, you're supposed to do 10% a week. It's not gonna, never works that way.
Yeah.
So if somebody's billing out X amount per week, or doesn't help the person trying to develop the project. The other side of it is, to me, the most important part was who's coming to the site. And when I had kids out of college, with nothing to do in the summer, coming to look at a project that was pretty much up there where you needed somebody, that kind of, I want somebody there that has some degree of efficiency and knowledge in doing it, which should go into whoever you pick.
Yeah.
But you know, if I had my woulda, coulda, shouldas, I would just say, look at the project. You're all experienced, and I know a couple of the local ones. They're very good at what they do. But look at the project, and you say, project's going to last 24 weeks, and here's going to be our cost. Win, lose, or draw, whether we have to send somebody out every week or every 5 days, because you call and say, all of a sudden, oh, the sewer pipe's in, or the electrical is in the ground. But there are weeks where nothing is happening.
Yeah.
You know, I always fought to have them give me a number.
Yeah.
You know, that you'll have somebody there. And the other side of it was, I don't mean to be derogatory, but I don't want the kid at a high school coming on the job when there's something important happening. I think, to me, those are two big factors that weigh in to picking whoever you're going to do.
I know, I mean, asking around, and I didn't ask a ton of people, but I asked enough, and I think I asked council once or twice as well. You know, what do other people do? You know, we have a labor policy, we want them to comply to it, all right? That's our policy as it states today. Other places do have it, other places don't have it. But at what level do we need to be rest assured that that you're obtaining the 85%, I'll say, local 7 county area? I mean, in some instances, I heard that the actual staff does it, just with people submit timesheets and or certified payrolls or whatever, and it's I hate to say it, a glorified spreadsheet. Other places are so intricate that they're going and visiting and they want to see people's licenses and those types of things. I mean, I don't know what level we want, but I know that we have to watch what we do because we want to make sure it's compliant, but we also don't want it to be a burden. And we also want to be a pain in the ass to projects, because you get that reputation, it doesn't go away quick. So
we don't want it to be a deterrent.
Yeah.
I mean, we want them to know that local labor is important to us. That's why the policy is in place, they have to comply, but we don't want any of it to be too onerous. I think on a competitive, competitive standpoint.
Do you think that maybe, I mean, the numbers are comparable, but if the engineer was there, maybe he would have a better idea of the project or what stages they are in, as opposed to someone who doesn't have that, and they would have a better idea, like, scheduling, whatever, maybe, I don't know.
Well, the ones that are on there, two local ones, they would do whatever you want, and they're top drawer, and they're local. I mean, to me, that's important.
Yeah, very important.
You can always touch, they're here. You can call them, I see you, do this, do that, or can I come out when you're there and watch what you're doing once or twice, just to get that more of a cozy feeling.
Or like, there's somebody coming from Rochester, or say, okay, maybe they're in the area now because they have so many projects, but I'll be down Tuesday, well, it rains.
Yeah.
And there's nobody there.
No, I don't know, I'm not saying we don't have,
Not that they're
real, but, so when the $1,800 or the numbers you received, that is for the entire project, or that's for, is it based on in other words, like per 100,000 of a project? Or
That's the example I use for one project, and on a monthly report, how many visits they make, who has to actually have, again, going based on their proposal and the personnel they have working on it, who would actually be working on it, assuming that they all work the same amount of time relatively. I think an admin that's typing up is going to, that's difficult.
That's all.
Yeah, some of these are, are more aggressive rates, no question for some of these,
And it could be, I mean, on a project that lasts weeks or a small amount of months, it could be.
Yeah.
But on a project that lasts years, imagine doing this on a major infrastructure project, like a power plant or something that's lasting 3-4 years. I mean, this could be something that's a 6-figure number.
Legoland, for example, is a multi-year project, and they've completed it enough to open, but they still have remaining sales tax exemption with us available, and they have future enhancements, and they want to continue to make it. So it can continue to go on. This could be on and on and on. I mean, some of these really can be very onerous, and you're talking a lot of hours. And so, and another thing, by the way, as far as an option is, in part with the staff concept you talked about, is self-reporting to a degree.
Yeah, maybe
kind of what you talked about, where they
on
provide
some projects we
work and file.
I don't want to say give them a waiver, but we say, okay, you can file and get it done. If it's a small addition to a building or something like, maybe we talk about that on the individual project by project basis. I don't know if we need to send out professionals that cost $2,000 a month to a project that is only seeking a couple $100,000 in exemptions, and it's only, it would almost be cost unbenefits.
Right. Maybe you put a limit on it.
Yeah, maybe.
But I also think is I've gone out to some of the projects myself for work, whatever, and you go, I think the idea was that you go, and there's like Virginia, Ohio, Texas, the license plates are lined up, and he's like,
wait a minute.
I mean, wait a second here, you know what I mean? And there's people that are available to do the work, no matter, if they're affiliated with somebody or not. So that was the one issue. And then I was just going to ask that, I don't know, maybe I'm doing this incorrectly, but isn't there something about materials as well? Is it local? They're supposed to be purchasing local materials as well, because one of the
I don't think not by our policy.
No, but that's part of prevailing wage. It's one of the concerns with the prevailing wage
Going
law.
at the state level.
Exactly. But I don't believe, I can double check, but I don't believe that's part of our local.
Project, they're actually bringing truckloads of material out of the area, like 4 states away. And there's like, and then again, the local businesses are saying, wait a second. I mean, what do we do? I don't know. I wasn't sure if that was included.
I think to answer your question, Nate, I think what we got a quick little download from our council was that there was pending legislation about some of that stuff.
Yes.
This is just for our local labor policy alone. When it comes down to something like that, if that is ever implemented or I guess voted upon at the state level, I would envision that it would be a state responsibility to monitor, whether it's the Department of Labor or whomever. But that's to be determined. I mean, Bill's going to the EDC conference next week.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be a topic. If you can,
if
it's one of those breakout groups, definitely, definitely look into that.
Yeah, because I mean, we've seen so many times that it is, again, for the contractors that are local, that it's giving them a level playing field where, believe it or not, to this day, you'll see a company come from wherever, and they don't have the workers' comp, or they don't have whatever. So it seems,
well, they don't have the workers.
Right, whatever, what I'm saying, and they're all coming in, and it's just this one guy, and he's getting paid, and they're giving the money for other people or whatever, and it's like, so the local people don't have an advantage, they're at a disadvantage to bid on this project.
I think we've had some great success though with this policy and with it. I mean, I know the stuff out in Warwick, the write-up on it, the list was a mile long.
That was local. Right.
That was terrific. That was
all
awesome.
about.
I don't know if every project in the history of the IDA was ever like that, but I know that recently, it's been very successful.
Absolutely, those are all local names. And I'll talk about 2 projects that aren't Orange County IDA, but good examples, because of course our friends in the town of Montgomery IDA, they came out under a lot of fire, and they had so much activity there that they really hurt it. Well, Amazon, they took a lot of grief for that. And Medline, of course, was chased away from the IDA for the most part. Well, Amazon, after the fact, as a result of getting a pilot and having to adhere to local labor standards, they had over $70 million in local contracts that were given out. Medline, again, really essentially chased away from the IDA. They were, in order to save money, they got a lot of out of the area. More than 80% of their contracts are outside the area. So that just really gives you another look at, people like to bemoan pilots, but for what they can do to ensure that local labor, happens, it's pretty powerful, very impactful.
That's why I think it's so important, because when you have think about the impact of the local people working.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there is a workforce here. So
is Dr. Odak still on?
He is.
Dr.
Yeah,
Odak.
yes. I'm mostly someone visual. All the three, if I look at the copies, I mean, I didn't make copies, so I'm just listening, and I'm always good. I'm someone that is visual, mostly visual, not auditory. But I'm following what is going on. Yes.
Yeah, so the question that I wanted to ask you, or at least get your comment on, is I think you would agree that the local economic impact of having people that are working local has a multiplier effect where if they're not here, there's less of a multiplier effect because they're not living here, they're not buying here, they're not buying cars, not going out, right? I think you would agree.
That is true. It's true in the sense that if we use the local labor, the impact is the multiplier impact. The multiplier impact is absorbed. It remains here in the county, or it remains in the county. But the other point I wanted to make is that if we can't find 85% of skilled local labor, is there a clause there that would say, well, get local labor, get labor from other counties, those that are skilled labor from other areas? Is that allowed? I mean, or you still have to have 85% local labor?
So let me try and address a couple of things in this. First of all, the 7 counties, I should just be clear, are Orange, Rockland, Ulster, Dutchess, Sullivan, Westchester, and Putnam. That's our 7, and then Hudson, first of all.
And there is probably discussion where we may want to think about adding Delaware in the near future, because a lot of people, it's only an hour away, and a lot of people live up that way because the cost of living is a lot less. So that's something that we could talk about on the policy one. Because a lot of guys live up that way.
Yeah, okay. So that is something to consider. And then in terms of waivers is something I should talk about, that anytime there's specialty, not necessarily just skilled doctor, but specialty skilled labor. I remember there was controversy at one point about tilt-up concrete walls, if that could be done locally or not. It's sometimes people say specialties outside the area, but certainly some specialty steel work, whatever it might be. Legoland, for example, I mean, they had amusement rides that came from Germany, and they had people coming calibrating those. So there are, in cases, specialized labor, but they do have to submit a waiver. And really, that's something also we need to tackle, is how we want to. Sometimes the audit committee actually would review those waiver requests. So that's something we need to talk about. But everything that's specialized needs to be presented by a waiver and approved by the IDA.
Oh, okay.
Hopefully that answers that.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so I think we have 5 responses, which is good. So it's not like we only have one person to potentially talk about. I think that, we could potentially push or look for having maybe one of these go to the full board for full approval. With the caveat, though, I think we should have a 30-day out clause on any contract that we do, and our ability to use or not use depending upon the board. If the project is not big enough to warrant this type of expense.
Sure.
With that, though, if we decide to go with someone local, we have to be cognizant of the potential that they may have a conflict. Like if they've done work for that developer or is working on that specific project. I'm less worried about if they worked for the developer before. It's more about if they benefited from that particular project. I think there's a direct conflict. If they work for ABC Development Company because they built 6 other buildings, but this one they're not working on, I don't think that's one. But it's something for us to at least be cognizant of if we decide to go on the local. But I think that, I'm glad that we got responses, and I'm glad that we publicly did this, and it's not just who others have used and you just added on. I don't know how in the past it was procured, but I know moving forward, we're doing it this way.
I think they just went out and got them when they heard who had done it, and they went out and got them.
So, I mean, what about like experience? Have they done this type of work before?
That is a great question. Obviously, Low Peterbilt has the most amount of experience. Sellenser has done it before. They did it for this IDA. The others, I do not believe have done that at all. It sounds like they have no experience doing it. They just think it's the exact same type of work as what they do with construction admin.
And then the next question I have is that if, I don't know, you have whether it ends up to be a conflict or it's a smaller project or whatever, who's to say one project can't be one company and another project be another company?
I'm really glad you raised that, because some IDAs do that as well. They actually try one, or they'll diversify it a little bit.
Right, you choose one or the other. They have to do every single one of your
I
projects.
don't think
Maybe
we
they
need a
don't.
long-term contract with anyone.
Maybe they don't. Maybe it's,
One thing we would have to watch with that is like if so-and-so got company A at 1,800 and so-and-so got company B at 2,200. If I was the guy that got the $2,200 one, I'd be pissed. I'd like, no, give me the $1,800 guy.
I don't know, maybe it depends on the
Yeah.
project. Maybe there's more
Yeah.
experience. Maybe it's a larger project, they have other experience. Maybe somebody has a little bit of a conflict. Maybe, I don't know.
I think having more than one is the way to go.
I don't know. I mean, don't lock into any, like, for example, if Jim brought up, listen, he's not there, his own kids, whatever, you tell them, and then next you know, there's kids that were, I say kids, I shouldn't say that. Like, that's like somebody inexperienced or whatever, you know, that doesn't have, that doesn't, you can maybe have another one for a different time.
Should we, if we decide to go that route, should we, I'll say, negotiate on behalf of the projects that it's this is the fee? You know, I mean, just so that it's fair to everybody. I mean, I don't know what that would be. It would be something we'd have to analyze, but say, you know, I think you said it was between 1,800 to like 2,800 or something?
2,200. No, 2,800, you're right.
You know, so maybe I just don't know. Say it's a $2,000, I'll say example.
Most of them were close. One
Yes.
side.
Yes. So I mean, just so we don't get down that, I'll say down that hole that says, oh, well, you got the cheaper one and I got the more expensive. You know, I hate to do it that way, you know what I mean? But I don't see an issue with us, I'll say, qualifying and picking a few of them and then based upon how, you know, whether we do it every other time or we just assign it as we go, I'm not sure.
Right, it could even be, I mean, listen, you have, you know, whoever the contractor or engineer, or whatever it is, they may have a very stringent payroll system. It may be that much easier, you know, or less difficult for them to go through the records or whatever, as opposed to another one they have.
Do a little more hands.
They can't carry around. Wait a second, there's 10 guys, there's only 3, or there's vice versa. Like, wait a second, now I gotta, you know, you're doing, as opposed to, here it is, there they are. Yeah. Here it is, there they are. Like some sort of, you know.
And I think that if we, like, once we choose some, we can put some of these policies in place. I mean, it could be as simple as, okay, you need to provide us with certified payrolls. I mean, that's not unheard of, you know, especially on bigger projects, or you need to provide us with a direct printing of your whatever, of your list, of your OSHA requirements, you know, everyone, it's, you know, whatever. I don't know. I mean, I don't know all the terms, but there's ways that I think we can narrow down, maybe with the guidance of some of these once we pick.
Just be careful of, you don't want to pick the $2,200 guy and then the $1,800 guy finds out and comes for you, right?
Yeah.
Is there any work you'd like to see us do, any other research or anything else in terms of the idea of staff taking this on? You want me to
Well, I think
get any hints or some other ideas to do it?
I mean, that's always an option, right? I mean, it's always an option with a 30-day out clause. If it's getting to be too expensive or something, we could always go that route, whether if it's existing staff or we get more staff, you know, there's always a route that we would eat the cost, you know. There's a lot of different options that I don't think we're going to be voting on or presenting to the board today. I think today's function is we have 5 bidders. I think we should potentially maybe qualify 1 or 2 of them to go to the board for approval and then get them to come in or work with staff to figure out what's the best way to do it moving forward. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
Yeah, let them tell you how they're gonna physically function, what we're gonna do, they're gonna, and everybody within the organization. You know, they do that. He comes to the site, you know, just so we get a feel for them.
Yeah.
What they do.
Because you want efficiency. You don't want it to just be something that is onerous to the project, but you also want it to be compliant.
Exactly.
Right. So I'm not sure how we go about it. This is kind of like our first, or really our second committee meeting. I think from what council has said is that we should propose to bring something to the board. And I don't know what that means. I mean, and she's not here, so I would pick her brain on that. Does that mean we actually say it out loud and propose it, and then it comes to the board for a full vote? Do we actually take a vote? What do you think, though? I mean, what do you think? Has she provided any? I hate to say it. I mean, I meant to ask her when we were on the phone, but she couldn't be on the phone last time we talked.
Plus, I'll say we do have enough votes for the committee to make a vote. That was my bigger concern is, you know, with 7 seats, 4 being a quorum, we need 4 votes. At least we need 4 votes in the same direction, remember, to be able to do it. If we get 3 and a no, then we don't have it. So that's been my concern of how we even function, you know, in that regard. But you know, I think it can be, the suggestion can be made. One of the things I want to ask you is, do you want us to do further analysis and suggest 2 or 3, or it should be all driven by the board?
I think it should be driven by the board. I mean, I think you did,
Put it out there.
your procurement job was to get all this information, get some, and try to compare it with the chart. And we have the chart, like we got it in email. You want to go over not that it's the limiting factor, but you just want to go over who they are again and what's their numbers?
Sure.
I didn't write it down. I know Dean wrote it down. I have it on my thing.
All right, so the respondents to this RFP are Delaware Engineering. They have an office in Goshen. Feldenser Engineering, their headquarters is in Middletown.
Can you say what their
Okay, so
rough analysis?
the computation I did, right? Okay, so Delaware was $2,238. Feldenser, again based in Middletown, $1,756. Iser, based in the city of Newburgh, $2,800. Land, with a major office here in Goshen, $1,920. And Rochester-based Low-Key Brill, $1,850.
And that's just an example. It's not
It is, exactly.
Okay.
But it's assuming that on a given project that there's exact same distribution of personnel use. Again,
Yeah.
if a principal for one company is going to weigh in on a project, I'm going to assume that another company, they would have the principal weigh in at the same level. I can't really assess it any other way.
Yeah.
And again, I think we do know, and especially from some of the reporting we see, generally how much time is by a construction admin person.
Sure.
Again, an admin assistant is compiling, reporting, everything. I don't think it's really that crazy, the numbers we use. And sure, there could be a deviation, but
Yeah.
we're seeing what kind of difference there is.
Okay.
Comparing apples to apples.
Well, I know that who we currently use today, and we've had experience with that over the year, or almost 2 years now. And I know I've had experience with all of them but Iser. I don't know Iser, but I know Sue Sullivan from working at the hospital. But I've seen Land work on projects. I've seen Fellinger work on projects. I've seen Delaware work on projects. I feel confident that, not knowing Iser, I feel comfortable that Delaware, Fellinger, Land, and Low-Key Brill could all do the work.
I agree with
You know, so it's not about and I don't know Iser. I'm sure they could, because this is not, I hate to say, it's not rocket science.
No,
You know, it's so.
and she's done similar,
Yeah.
I know, has
Yeah.
worked on projects where
Yeah.
she's compiling similar kind of information.
So I would say that almost all of them can do the work.
I believe so.
I'm under the assumption, you know, I would like to, pull the board, but I would think that, not knowing if there's anything ever been banned with any of them with the IGA in the past, and not thinking that any of them have a true conflict because they would have disclosed it during the process, I would like to potentially go with Fellinger and Land as a potential to bring to the board, being local, and knowing that they have done projects like this, and I've seen their work both at the planning board level and at the planning level. They're also both very supportive of economic development, whether they're parts of chambers or partnerships or different stuff like that. You always see them coming out in support of different things when it comes to that. But I would like to see that, but I'll open it up to everybody else to get everyone else's opinion before we move forward. Steve, what do you think?
I mean, can't say that I've actually worked on the engineering issue, you know what I'm saying, with those companies, whatever, but I do like the fact that they are local, that's for sure. I mean, that's what we're talking about, local. Why wouldn't we do the same, right? And again, nothing against Low-Key Brill.
Yeah.
I don't, and except they're right here.
Jim, what do you think, Jim? I mean, you've had some experience with projects.
That's what I would think. Yeah, they're local, and I've never come across them in a negative sense. They do what they do. Yeah, they get jobs done. Yeah, I agree.
And both of them, I think, have been go-to for more than a decade for many different projects. Dr. Odock, any questions, concerns about potentially going with Fellinger and Land Engineering here in Orange County?
No question yet. I don't have a question at this moment. Yes.
All right, so not knowing what we're supposed to do, I'm going to be a little more formal than I probably should. I'm going to make a motion that we support going to the full board with Fellinger and land to be determined on Wednesday. You know, on a final vote, but I'd make that motion, and I would hope that everyone would join me on that.
Do I don't want to second that?
Second.
Sorry?
In favor?
No, I second that, but somebody did that already.
Okay. All right then.
And
Yeah, you okay with that? Yeah. Okay, so we'll move forward with, Felonzer and with land, and we'll bring it to the board on Wednesday as an agenda item under new business? Or old business?
Unfinished business.
Unfinished
That's
business?
all, yeah. Okay, great.
And then
All right, progress.
and I'll ask staff, will work with them and try to come up with the intricacies so we can probably narrow down a policy, how, so, you know, the basic stuff that, so it's kind of, I don't say set, but it's so that it's something that's easier to, one, describe and understand, but also become a predictable expense, not a questionable expense.
Okay.
so what is, like, for an example, the one project, the Warwick project,
Sativa? Yeah.
Now, they haven't, even though they're gonna go through the process, so have they already started with Loki or any other way they would be, I'm just wondering where they would be, I mean, they haven't started.
They have not yet. We still have to kind of close the transaction for
Correct.
them as well.
So this, one of these two may be one of the first.
And I think we would transition out of the Loki bill coming down and into that, because it's,
Sounds like it.
yeah, we could transition even the existing projects that we have. We have a bunch of existing projects that are coming towards their end,
Yes.
you know?
No, yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying that Loki, they wouldn't finish those projects out?
I think it could be either way, to be honest with you. I think we could, I think you could go either way. But again, as the chairman said, that a lot of those are wrapping up, you know, pretty shortly. But we'll have Walgreens, Sativa, others that could come, could be West Warwick, others that we're all going to be, you know, closing hopefully this year, and then we'll be ready for this. So,
Yeah.
but it depends on how long the other ones go on. If we want to transition, we could do that too. Something we can discuss with both Loki, Brill, and one of these.
Hate to say another chart, but if you
Yeah.
could provide us with a chart of
Yeah.
what's still existing, and,
Yeah, sure.
you know, just like a little checklist, so that, and then we can make a decision on that, depending upon the life cycle of it. I mean, this is changing in the last 2 hours or something, but if it's another year left, maybe we transition to one of the new ones.
Sure.
And we got to figure out a way on how to do that, so it's fair to both of them. You know, whether it's a negotiated rate, which I'm in favor of, or something like that, but I'll leave that up to staff to work with them and make a recommendation, so that it's kind of equal.
Understood. Absolutely. That makes sense.
I mean, so we do have the reports from Loki.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
we
have diligent reports on them all the time.
Yeah, so just, but my point, I think you can transition.
Yeah,
have a.
Sure, I think so. If that's how we want to go, definitely. I think it's all probably the chairman's point to the timing of it all. So it's going to go on for a couple of years, or, you know, then we don't have to just grandfather everything in. So, yeah, okay, great. Okay, cool. That's great. Only other topic for discussion tonight, I know Sue, sorry, she couldn't be here for this discussion, but is talking about our meeting location. Obviously, it's been a hot button issue. I'm going to let the chairman really explain really his feelings on it, and how we really tried to focus our meetings here. I've been forthright with everyone about it, including the chairman, that frankly, the only feedback I have, staff will do whatever, obviously. If this is where we need to be, it's fine. There are some meetings, I probably, if I had to pick two categories, board meetings and finance committee meetings, where it is helpful at times to be at the headquarters because we have access to our information. But we've been through a lot here, and you know, a lot of things have happened, and we need to take a close look at all these types of things. So that's the only thing I want to put out there, but we have been for the last probably 14 months doing it remotely, and the discussion is just whether or not we continue to have everything here. Do we move some things around? Do we have any meetings in the headquarters? Not. Do we move to headquarters? That's something else that I think it really has to be dealt with, but that's the issue at hand. So,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I'll leave.
Yeah, I mean, so it came up a couple times, at least twice so far, with former IDA board member Noel Spencer, and then with Sue Walski. And in my opinion, when I came on in March 2021, the idea was the previous board was all like to bring stuff back in house, and to really reconstitute it so that it's fully transparent, and to get the trust back of not only the county legislature, but the county residents. One of those ways was, since that, I'll say once that other board was all let go at the same time, all the board meetings have been here. Okay. I think for a reason. I think because I think there was a need to potentially have legislators join us sometimes, and we've seen that at least in the year and 3 months I've been in here, so that's 13 meetings, probably at least 6 times we've had legislators join us either in the meeting or stop or come in or meet us afterwards. So it's kind of like a focal point. Also, on the side of transparency, this is the Orange County seat, and it's the community room of the government center and whatnot. With that said, though, we want it to be fair, and in some instances, I'll fully disclose, it might be easier for me to go to a New Windsor location because I work literally right here, but I also live right across the street here. Irregardless, I do it, or in my opinion, I think they should be here because of the transparency. They cannot say, no one can say they didn't have the opportunity to know where this building is. It's the government center, and not everyone knows New Windsor, our corporate office at New Windsor. We may be leaving there at the end of our term of lease, depending upon what the board decides. There's a little bit of history. There was history at the other facility of people not being allowed to come into meetings and didn't feel comfortable coming there. Now, I don't think that we would portray that. I know we wouldn't portray that, but there's history there as well. So when it comes down to it, we have 5 board members that live throughout the area. We have 2 more coming on to be determined. Is it fair for someone living all the way in Warwick to have to go all the way to New Windsor, or from someone from Pine Bush, Harriman, to have to go either way? It's kind of centrally located. And in my opinion, I think it's the best place to have it. Now, to answer staff's question, I think, with electronics and with proper preparation, having good agendas and having it all set up, I think we could have all the information that we need. I'm less concerned about that. But I'm more worried about the transparency aspect of it and it happening in a government building with the ability for anybody to come in, including any of the elected officials. Every elected official has been to this building, not only at the county level, but I would say probably at the town and village level for different reasons. So they can always know where to find us or come to us, but I'll leave it at that. I mean, that's just my opinion. I mean, I don't know if we'll eventually have to go to a vote on this. I think it may, because I think certain board members feel differently, but I'll leave it up to the board to decide what we want to do. I mean, and whatever it is, we'll have to abide by. I hate being so formal about stuff because it's not really, I think, an agenda item or a vote worthy, but that's just my opinion. I wanted to let everyone speak about this. So I'll turn it over to Dean and if any opinions and discussions on it.
Well, I will say that I understand what you're saying for sure. I also think that, you have that building down there that we are paying for wherever we're at utilizing. There's no doubt that the electronics are that much better there, obviously, with the hookups and whatnot. But why does it have to be so rigid that we say it's here or always there? Maybe we can, have certain things there or whatever. For me, obviously, it's that much more convenient for me as well. I mean, I'm on that side of the county or whatever. And if any of the applicants are coming, they're meeting there, correct? And obviously, it would meet at your office. Listen, I went on the road. I was even worked with the board of trustees. I had to go to because I knew there was always sign and boxes of paper, whatever, and you do the best you can. I don't know why does it have to be so stringent that we say that's it, either here or there? Why can't we mix up a little bit? And I'm not saying this you have quarterly meetings here or whatever, or maybe have someone see kind of utilizing a little bit of both. You have something, a real big meeting, whatever, you have a ton of paperwork, maybe you're going to have it down there, or because it's a larger meeting, you would have it here because there's a lot going on at that time. It's a quieter meeting or whatever. I mean, and the other thing is, I think that if other people are going to continue doing some of the Zoom, whether it's the professionals coming in or whatever, you can definitely on that, unless we can hook up somewhere to the other. I don't know.
Yeah, I should add that. So we had our last finance committee meeting was at the headquarters, and that was convenient mostly because we had 3 parties that were zooming in. So it is clearly better than that. We did try. We worked with county IT. Well, I think it supported us to a degree, but then limited. We did try and use one of these TVs. It just was not working well. But I would say if we decide that we're committed to staying here, we could work on some of these things and see if we could overcome them. Even if, I don't know, if we have to pay the county anything, but, we could try trying, because it's a shame to be using this when at our headquarters, we have a great setup and you've got the state-of-the-art everything. So no matter where we are, the technology is part of it. Again, that's why that meeting, you know, we need to improve, I think, some of the way the meeting runs and such, you know, that's all. So could be tightening up the technology, whatever it might be.
All
Yes.
right, we'll go Jim and then
Yeah.
we'll go to Dr. All right. Yes, Dr. Oda, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Right.
Go ahead, Doctor.
Yeah, I do echo what Mike said earlier, but I do have an appendix, my own personal opinion to that, to add to that. Where the corporate headquarters is, I would think that maybe committee meetings should meet there. Then the IDA regular meeting maybe at the government center, because it's a corporate headquarters for IDA. I mean, as we all know, at least some action should go there too.
He's saying committee meetings at the headquarters, IDA board meeting here. Right, Doctor? Committee meetings, are you suggesting at the headquarters and IDA board meetings at the government center?
The board meetings should be at the government at in Goshen. But the committee meetings, I mean, the corporate headquarters should have something going on at least, you know, and that is having the committee meetings there, at least. But that's my own personal opinion. And as I said, I do echo what Mike said earlier. That's what, looking at it from this point, my own point of view.
Thank you, Doctor.
Anything else, Jim?
Yes, I'm
Being
not.
new, you know, on the outside, number one, I see the IDA expanding on it. Here, that will be way beyond where you are right now. Look where you were 6-8 months ago. And with that in mind, you know, you're the IDA, part of Orange County, right? Orange County government, and everything that goes with it. I really think that your presence should be here, whether it's in this building or you have other space around Goshen somewhere. I mean, to be, you know, you're a professional organization. And to me, to meet in this room is not a professional room to meet in. It is what it is. So you have files there, you have this or that. You know, the county government center has a lot nicer space in this room. But what I'm saying is, be professional, you know, and you need to have the look. You know, years ago you had to have a tie and a suit. You don't need that anymore, but you still have to have a professional look to what you do. You're going to be handling much larger projects than we're looking at right now. Orange County is, you know, the next place to go for this stuff.
Yeah.
So you need that presence where people from the outside are going to be looking. Then you don't want to look at this room and say, we're going to
Sweep it up in the back.
One of the
big
backgrounds. But whether it's here in this building or in another building, in the village of Goshen, because you're
When the lease expires, you know.
and there's
But I mean, in the past, I mean, I think it's different, right? I mean, over the years, when the IDA was run by the county executive's office, so the deputy county executive was I'll say the CEO or the executive director of it, it was in the county executive's office.
Right.
It ain't been a professional thing. I've also seen it be in the actual legislative chambers or committee room chambers. But with that, you have to go through security. This was pre-security. Now with security measures in place and being an opportune time for everyone to meet, the earliest is at 5:30. I think pre-security, so that you don't want to have to really go through there, or I'll say almost closed, not fully, almost closed. It was the community room was the most logical place. We asked back, I want to say 2021 early, we asked to have it in the legislative chambers and were denied. So, yeah, so they said that they usually to utilize this room here because it's more of a community function and everyone can come in and have to go through the security. We're not allowed to go to the legislative.
Listen, now you're starting to be think about this. Now that you said that, maybe I would go to. I don't know. You know, I mean, that's true. Like guys, I don't. Well, I was going to go to that. But yeah, you know, thinking about that. But the other thing now, I'm I'm thinking the opposite now. What you had said is like, we asked to do it. I said, no, come here. And to yours is like, well, they should give you a better room then. We want to do it here. If you give us a better room. I mean, it's a big, beautiful building. And I get it. Nothing. It's just a nice space. But like, you're correct. I mean, you're bringing professionals in and whatever. So, I mean, maybe they should decide to do it elsewhere. But I mean, at the time, situation is why they ended up at Stewart. But you would think maybe, hey, maybe be great at Stewart. People are flying in or whatever. They see the airport, something's going on there. But we hope obviously more and more will be going on there as well. But it just hasn't. So you come into a place like you had said, planes coming in, or whatever. You're saying, so hey, listen, this is
Would county be, I have no clue, would the county be amenable to, because they have space they rent all over, that there's some form of county government function that has a boardroom or whatever, that, 5 o'clock they're gone. Is it possible?
Sure.
Part of it to use that space so that it is.
Sure.
And yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it's something we have to look at. Go ahead, Dr. Oda.
Yeah. Do we have an idea of how other idea in other counties meetings, where the meetings take? Is it in the public headquarters or government quarter? I mean, government quarter headquarters as well. Do you have an idea where they hold their meetings?
Yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I mean, the IDAs that are in Orange County, like Walk Hill, Montgomery, and City of Newark, meet at the government facility, the town hall, city hall of those entities. On some of the bigger ones, the countywide ones,
Dutchess is not in a county government building. They are in their own space. I'm not sure where their board meetings are held though. I can verify that. But they have headquarters outside of government.
But the small ones, do they have hired?
Yeah, most of the only Montgomery has a hired director. So, and now they're in between directors. So the others are handled either by the chief, the supervisor really ultimately rolls up to them. They usually have an attorney that, that runs an office and they're on board. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but no, there's only one paid director, and then otherwise the meetings are happening in the municipal.
yeah, the municipal governments. All right. We have some very good opinions. I'm not sure where to move forward with this. I don't know if it's board worthy or not, but, or vote worthy or not, but,
Giving the state about private.
I think I'm just going to pivot talking about our headquarters location. Again, our lease is with First Class at this airport site, February of next year, 2023. We have had some discussions knowing us ahead, knowing that this is happening. We talked about, first of all, we're as much space as we need there. So we talked about cutting that down. They're not really interested in that. We actually be able to have the space open. State development is across the street from us, 33 at Work Center Drive. Actually, a perfect size location, much better rent. But that's the alternative for us to stay there. It would be an easy move. The location, in full disclosure, it's a nice location for the two employees, Kelly and myself. We happen to live on that side of the county, but you make a decision, especially a long-term lease based upon who we are right now. We both understand that it looks like it makes sense for us to go. I will say my only concern is I've been in a couple of buildings that I don't think meet the standards that are very affordable right now, but don't where we should be. And I'm not a guy that needs the fancy stuff everything. It's not about that. It's really all about perception. So I think a suitable space that's similar to what we have, I think that's what we're looking at, and we have to get looking in Goshen. So before that, up to you, what you want to do in the interim. I do think there are some factors here, and again, I do agree with you, Mr. Chairman, though. We can be even better prepared. We can make sure everything is the right document. It's just when it doesn't happen, it's tougher to fix it. Whereas, like we saw even at finance committee meeting, something came up, I actually print them out. You see some of the convenience when it comes to that. But I think long-term, it makes sense to everyone that we in Goshen. I think that's where we're ultimately when it comes to,
Without a commitment for me, even though I'm retired, I'm still very involved in the village. If you were to tell me how many square feet possible, what you're looking for, and I wouldn't tell anyone what I'm doing, but I can give you a,
But, I mean, it's hard to be back here. But it would be nice to, I mean, that rent down there is just like.
Oh, yeah.
what is the split there, do you know?
We're paying over $10,000 a month.
Yeah, it's very,
Yeah.
it's healthy facilities.
It's crazy, right? I look at that like, just so I said, what is
It's
going on?
some of the highest office space, non-medical space rent in Orange County.
Things changed. I have 2 buildings across the street here, and I wish I was getting.
That's the place selection process now all the way too. I mean, our next meeting on Wednesday is going to be here. I don't want to be the chairman. I'm still only 1 out of 5 votes or 1 out of 7 votes. But I stated my opinion. I don't, controversial. I want for us to meet, not hung up on this, but,
We have another governance meeting. It's not a whole quarter. Well, we can bring it up and when, if you wanted to try it, you could have one of the. If it's worth taking the board meeting. Wait till the next.
I mean, it all depends. I mean, we can go one route, we all vote on it today, and we're meeting on. All 4 of us will agree. Wait and postpone and kick the can down, and then it's where,
And then we'll have a couple more members coming on as well, so the dynamic. So,
But you do something, you're having, like the last groups that we're in, we're just, giving updates or information or whatever, maybe do those. It's easier with whatever it's.
one way or another, I think we need to improve the technology, so we have a good setup there, other we gotta fix it here.
Because I said, well, I understand that, but watching the presentations on the other screen compared to this.
No comparison.
It's not even.
It was pretty fluid, that in my eyes, like, oh man, this is a lot.
well, is some of that disappearing eventually, because you're not allowed to have any Zoom?
Well, that's a good question too, I guess.
Well, I think in the governor's budget, it doesn't, it opens it up to Zoom, but you have to be able to open up wherever you're participating, has to be open to the public. So like Dr. Odock has to allow either be as they do rather or open people up to the Zoom.
We could be here if you wanted to.
You good? Yeah, she's good.
But not, in other words, not for a presenter, in other words.
They don't
like
have to.
like
Voting members.
Usually just, right, correct, like the female group, whatever.
Exactly, webpage, exactly.
Yeah, presenters and applicants.
They could, right, so for them to be, without,
Exactly.
I would think, if you have put it, then I would think it would, I hate to say it, but it would almost make no sense not to do it there. Now, I know what you're thinking
You
too.
can make
I
the technology better here.
as soon as, right, as soon as kind of it's all set up, but you're probably thinking too, is like, just walking in that door, it's like, all of, who knows what went on there or whatever, but we are renting that space. We should have a big party there.
Right.
Anyway, like
I wanted to burn sage or whatever you gotta do there. But, and my only feeling on that was we did spend 12, 14 months away from there. So we did, have that time away and everything, but again, I'm not dying to go back to that building. I have some bad memories of that building as well for some of the meetings that went on there. To me, it's just about being able to put on the best meeting we can again from the staff perspective. That's really where I'm going. I'll go anywhere. I'll lug anything. We just want to have the best meeting.
All right. We have 4 people here today and 2.5 different opinions. I don't know if we're ready to discuss it.
A vote isn't going to do anything either way because of that. So it's not going to care if you want to choose to try and carry, send it to the board, because of where we are. I don't think we're going to get that. So, one way or another.
Next meeting here, or?
It is Wednesday. The board meeting is here on Wednesday. Yep. So, which is really what we're going to do going forward, unless the discussion changes. But we're going to try and do that.
Yes.
That's all we have for today.
Any other topics that the board would like to bring up under governance? I mean, there's a lot of different potential topics, but nothing that was scheduled or prepared for today, besides these two.
The only thing I was gonna ask is, so we have, RFPs out for other services and whatever, so that would be at the next governance?
Yes,
then?
that's how we're gonna handle governance.
To make a present, to hopefully come to a consensus to bring to the board for.
But, and I have no idea, but we're not losing, like, not so much for the, like, we're losing out on any of the shovel-ready items, because we're not postponing it, or there's not something there that, how does that?
So that'll be coming before too long, that, you know,
There's something going on that we should be like right on top of, is my question.
I don't
Now
think
is the
so.
time? Okay.
We just, our deadline just passed last Friday for that. We got 5 responses to that, and I think because we finally got the committee schedule out there, it was a hump I had to get over, frankly, taking all of your time and putting all this in it. And, so I think it's gonna be pretty efficient. The one that sat the longest, frankly, is the bond council RFP. We want to deal with that after local elections. We want to deal with that, because they've been waiting for a while.
I just don't want to make sure you shovel.
No, I don't think, it's a good question. No, I don't think so. No, we're something we want to get to, we want to start ASAP, but it's nothing where we're missing an opportunity at this time.
All right,
That's all I had.
committee meeting, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, Dr. Odock, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank
Doctor.
you. Yeah. Oh, this was fast. This is the fast meeting, a short meeting, really.
That's
A
right.
short meeting, right?
It won't be this fast.
All right.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
We're gonna sign
Enjoy
off.
the rest of the week. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.